we are ready, requesting flight number 350 to Binti.
Biggest unsolved mystery in aviation history is the disappearance of MH370 from Malaysia Airlines system Berhad. So, this aircraft carried 239 passengers including its crew members, and its flight is from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. However, it disappeared about 30 minutes from its flight and never seen again. There are three spokespersons that were appointed for this crisis, which were Ahmad Jauhari, the Group Chief Executive Officer, former Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Binti Abdul Razak and Datuk Seri Syamuddin Hussein. They address the public on the crisis information and keep them updated. There are 10 best practices according to SYAHIRA 2006. So the first one is process approaches and policy development. So, according to the MAS, they said that they have implemented an emergency response plan to face with the crisis and how to give an effective response to the public. However, according to EBIT, it is argued that MAS was not well prepared with an effective ERP in hands to be initiated and adopted with the incident discovery. The next practice is pre-event planning. So it is as a guide to preparedness and response to handle emergency situation. However, according to the MAS head of post-accident office, he said that the initial reaction of the company exposed loopholes in the way they reacted and dealt with the vanished aircraft. Even though the airline had conducted a practice emergency scenario, the company will still unable to effectively cope with the real incident. Partnership with the public. MAS conveyed their latest update on the missing of MH370 to the public through press conference and media releases that they posted on their website. High-ranking officers of the government also involved in the press briefing. So, MAS ensure that the public gets information on what is happening and the development of the case throughout the media and press conference. So, they use dialectic approach. And also, they also activated their dark website where press releases were posted and updated on the website. Media statements in this website were published in English and Chinese. That is because most of the passengers were Malaysian and also Chinese.
A corporation facing risk management or a crisis must first listen to public concerns, then respond accordingly. Malaysia Airlines deployed specialist caretakers and Chinese interpreters to consult the victims' families. The caregivers helped families by providing information, transport, and accommodations for those who went to Malaysia. Caregivers also look for signs of excessive emotional stress to recommend counselling. Hence, the PR industry praised this measure and the media covered them extensively. MAS issued a statement after learning that flight MH370 may be hard to find. 5 hours after losing communications with the plane, the statement was published at 7:34 a.m. Malaysia Airlines' response was criticized because its statement was unclear and lacked clarity. Official remarks were often erroneous, inconsistent, and followed up by corrections. MAS has no credibility since it continued double-stepping and did not tell the families when needed. MAS uses credible sources although their information is inconsistent. Although Malaysian officials responded quickly throughout the crisis, their crisis communications management and media contacts were not properly evaluated. In several news reports, inaccurate and partial information from multiple spokespersons causes confusion and deceit. Malaysia Airlines was not accessible to the media. MAS lacked training in communicating and handling significant information and crisis management practice. MAS did not employ appropriate communication strategies because they did not adequately explain global communication crisis management, filtering information, and recognizing diverse cultures amid an urgent issue.
Throughout the crisis, MAS maintained a good communication with the stakeholders, specifically the public, mainly through their official website and media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, Google, and also Weibo, a popular Chinese microblogging site. Other contents besides the issue of the disappearance were being toned down to pay respect towards the victims and their relatives. Other than that, the media pages also communicated directly with the public by providing a continuous update about the situation. By applying all these practices within the company, publics will refrain from speculating false rumors around, hence the reputation of Malaysia Airlines can be redeemed. The way the spokesperson accepted the uncertainty and the ambiguity of the tragedy varied. This is because airline accidents are unfortunate worldwide phenomena and have been recorded since the early days of the aviation history. Supposedly, the spokesperson of any organization should be able to acknowledge the uncertainty inherent in any situation. However, one of the spokespersons assigned during the crisis, Dato Sri Shamsuddin Hussein, acting transport minister, made a remark that inflicted outrage among publics. Public claimed that he made a curt denial about the fact that there were a lot of confusion regarding the official statement provided by the company. It is also stated that Malaysia Airlines did not provide a clear statement that the company had accepted full responsibility for the accident, neither there was an indication of transparency in its communication. Self-efficacy can be portrayed through various ways, and one of them is by offering a range of activities. In 2019, Musk signed a contract with Ocean Infinity to undertake a 90-day survey campaign to find the wreckage of MH370. Other than that, Musk also gave an opportunity for Malaysians to sign on the wishing board as a symbolic of their support to the passengers and crew's family, also the company itself. These are some of the action taken by the company to show that they wanted the public, especially the families of the victims, to rely on them. The practice served the purpose of reducing harm created by the risk factor, which in this case a negative reaction by the relatives of the victims and general publics.
Malaysia Airlines successfully used numerous secure crisis communication guidelines during the MH370 disaster. Malaysia Airlines used procedure methods and policy creations, pre-event preparations, partnered with the public, listened to the public concerns and understood the audience, and communicated with compassion, care and empathy. During critical times, Musk deployed an ERP. ERP features activation points, processes, actions and recovery plans, and crisis communications and management. Musk conducted news conference and posted MH370 information online. Government officials conducted press briefing. Media and press conference keep the public informed. Musk considered the public a partner. Press releases were on Musk's dark website. This webpage is dark to imply a crisis involving death and public suffering. English and Chinese media announcements were produced for a varied audience. Musk sent caregivers and translators to comfort customer families. Through its websites and other media, Musk communicated with stakeholders, notably the public. Malaysia Airlines' statement on the tragedy were not honest. Musk's suggestion that MH370 crashed somewhere unfindable provoked outrage. Hence, the statement lacked clarity. Musk lost any confidence it had by utilizing double-stepping and not informing families. Musk uses respectable sources, yet their data is inconsistent and misleading. Contradictory spokesmen can diminish a source's credibility. In 2 weeks, journalists identified 9 civilians and military sources. Malaysia Airlines wasn't media-friendly. Stakeholder questions Malaysian authorities' information vacuum and inconsistent information in the MH370 inquiry. Malaysia declined to share travel data to victims' relatives. The institution's spokesperson should be able to detect ambiguity and respond objectively. But the crisis spokesman didn't follow the rules.
Some of the practices that can be improved by Malaysia Airlines are the way the company assigned a spokesperson. The organisation was unable to deliver precise and consistent answers to important questions during the crisis. The company should deliver consistent messages to their stakeholders if they want to be viewed as legitimate by assigning a specific individual. Another practice that can be improved is the manner of accepting the uncertainty and ambiguity of the crisis. The spokesperson should practice a good crisis communication, which is to acknowledge the uncertainty inherent in the situation, with statements such as, "The situation is fluid and we do not yet have all the facts." This strategy allows the communicator to refine the message as more information becomes available and avoid statements that are likely to be shown as inaccurate. The improvement can also be applied on the practice of meeting the needs of the media, as the company appeared unprofessional in handling the media and did not remain accessible. Such cases were to be predicted or being taken seriously in the sense that there should be a pre-event planning if it ever happens, so that the company can give at least their take on the crisis. But in order to do that, the company must first accept the uncertainty of the crisis. Next, the company can improve their crisis management by being more open or transparent in relaying information to the stakeholders. Honesty, candor, and openness work hand in hand. This practice can reflect on just how much credibility MUST has in managing the crisis. Another area of practices that could be improved are process approach and pre-event planning. The company should conduct more simulations and improve their training and crisis preparedness plan. Last but not least, MUST shall refine the way they coordinating with sources. The demand to fill the information void in MH370 crisis was driven not only by their key publics, for instance the families of victims, but also by the media's requirement to produce news contents. The statements given to the public should be checked beforehand to avoid any confusion and misunderstanding, thus refraining the stakeholders from making any speculation.